Hey folks, and thanks for watching another episode of Are We There Yet? Today we're going to have a look at inventory systems. Do you have an inventory system? You could have no system at all, and I suppose that would work. But at some point you're going to have more items than you can keep track of. Let me go ahead and start a timer here so I know how long I'm rambling here. And you'll notice I do have an agenda up, and it's pretty brief. I think there's more to discuss in here than I need notes for. So as I was saying, you could have no inventory system at all. You could just remember where you placed things after you listed them, and that works for a while. Until you scale to a certain size, and maybe you have too many items. Certainly, and that works until you scale to so many items or too many items that you can't keep track of, or perhaps you have multiple items of, say, a similar size, or I guess that are very similar, but perhaps maybe one has a nick and the other one doesn't, or you need to be able to tell those apart and easily tell which item a customer has bought or a buyer has purchased. So I'm going to let's go ahead and get into this. Behind me, I've created some slides here, and the first we'll just call your basic bin system. And this is what we started with way back initially, when we only had a handful of items that we purchased and listed on eBay. It was easy enough. We had a box, and in the box we just had some loose items in there. At that time, we were not selling clothes like we are now. They were more hard goods, but they were knickknacks and whatnot that you could easily put into a bin. Those things that we couldn't put into a bin, or perhaps were already packaged, say a puzzle or maybe a book or something like that, then it would be placed on a shelf, and they would be in one particular area of the house that we knew we could go get to. The first thing that we're going to the first system that we're going to look at is a bin system. And this is a system where you have a box maybe, and in that box you have some loose items. These items are easy to identify. You can look in the box and see them. Maybe they're not as fragile and you're not worried about picking up the box and moving it around. But at some point you are going to scale beyond that and outgrow that system, and you'll need more bins. Well, now that you have more bins or more boxes, what box is that item in? For a while, I guess you could look through every box looking for that particular item. I think that's going to become a little maddening as your store grows. I know, some other systems that I've heard of, and you may see other resellers using, is a bin system that is labeled. Maybe the bins have license plates on them, or like in this case, they're labeled with state abbreviations, and you could put these abbreviations or these labels, these bin labels, into the SKU. On eBay, it provides a field for you to put a custom SKU in. Poshmark as well gives you that an area or a field that you can put a SKU into. Some platforms don't allow that, say Depop, Macari, Grailed. Those don't have a specific field for a SKU in your listing. We happen to put ours as part of the description, so we can easily identify what those pieces are or where those items are. So this system can work. Hopefully you have a shelving unit or something that you could place these bins on, so you're not unstacking and restacking these bins. That works again for a little while. We used a bin system initially, and that's just when we had a few loose items that were easily enough to identify, and those items that were perhaps larger, we just knew as a particular area within the house we could locate those items, and we didn't have very many. So that worked for a while. We have not, this next one I'm going to show, we have not tried this one. This one is a very popular one. You'll may have heard other resellers speak of this, and that they have implemented this. I know there's, reseller. I think it was Daily Refinement that may have initially started this, and then other resellers have since adopted the same method. And this is where you package, and this is, I guess, primarily is good for a clothing reseller, because you can then package the clothing into a poly bag and affix a label to it with a number, a sequential number, a SKU. So in this case, if you would imagine that each row is a bin or a box, and within that box you have a number of items, and each item then has a sequential number or SKU assigned to it. So this, I think, would work well if you could have all these boxes, all these bins in one location, so that, because this is really dependent on you being able to see the first SKU or the package with the first label, the lowest sequential number in the bin, so you know which bin to go to. For instance, if I was looking for, say, package number 6, I would know, well, it's greater than 1 but less than 7, so it must be in this box, and lo and behold, it would be there towards the end. Likewise, it would go on there. If I'm looking for 10, well, I know it's greater than 7, but yet less than 13. I would be able to find it within this bin. And then, of course, as you sell things, oops, I think, can I delete that? How do I delete that? I just want to delete the whole thing. There. So then as you sell items, then of course, your bins become empty, or obviously have fewer items in them. And so then you at some point would want to consolidate these. So then that's a matter of then taking your, let me fight with this. Nope, I don't want to move that one. I want to move this one. So that's a matter of moving these things over. Maybe we can grab all these and slide them over, and then grab this one and slide it over here. So you would physically do that, or do that with each item in every bin or every box. And again, I think this works really well if all these boxes are within close proximity of one another. I think why it hasn't worked with us is we have a multiple level home, and we have inventory on multiple levels. So it would get, when we needed come time to consolidate these, it would become tedious, carrying these boxes up and down and reorganizing. The other thing that I think where this wouldn't fit in our environment or in our home is that you really don't know where an item is. If I'm looking for, say, number 13, item number 13, where is that? Because these are constantly shifting, right? They're moving. It may have started upstairs, but now has been shifted or consolidated into a box that is maybe downstairs. I just don't know where that is. Anyway, that it would be, you could do it, definitely could do it. I'm not knocking it, and it definitely works for a lot of resellers out there. So, You can't knock what works, right? So I'm just going to finish. I think you get the idea of when it comes time to consolidate these. So, and how they shift around. And then, eventually you're going to get to where this last box here is now empty or nearly empty. So you then would begin filling it with, new product or new inventory. You now have room for, in this case, 5 more, for example, 5 more items. So that is what I would call the sequential system. And again, I think would work really well if you're able to store all these boxes or these bins in close proximity. Maybe you have a big warehouse and you can occupy, you have large space that you can set your shelves up sequentially and in rows that you can have these items or these boxes close to one another. Another one here. This is what we have implemented, and I call it a hybrid system, and it's essentially a bin system. However, and then each bin then has a label. The labels could be anything. I have chosen in this case alphanumeric, and you're going to wonder maybe why I have some goofy SKUs or labels here. We go from A100, A200, all of a sudden we go to A503. And yeah, it seems kind of silly, but it so happens that A503 was the very first bin that started this hybrid system. And it was just a random number that we used. And it happened to be 503. So then we began with 503, B503, C503, D503 as our store grew, or as our inventory grew. And then when we finally got to Z503, of course we've exhausted that. We then began with, well, shoot, it made sense at that time to go with the same numbering scheme. And so we started with A603 and so on, and that went on till we got to Z603. Logically, what's next? Of course, you guessed it, A703, on to A803, and we've even have 903, which is not represented on here. But at some point in all the middle of this, all these bins, we know they're physically located downstairs in our basement. Our basement is now at capacity. So at some point we realized that, and we bought some other shelves, and we actually bought plastic bins. These are cardboard boxes. These are plastic bins. These, we bought larger shelves, more heavier duty shelves, and we actually have those in our garage. And these items, these plastic bins do contain more items in them. They are heavier. They are on a more robust shelving system, if you will. But anyway, the point of it is that I know anything in the 100, 200 range is out in the garage. So easily located. So now let's get into the SKUs themselves, or the item SKUs. So each item then, and I should have, I don't have a package up here. I should have brought a package. But anyway, say it's a shirt. The shirt is folded and it's placed in a clear poly bag. And that poly bag then has a sticky label, or a label affixed to it, that has the bin ID, in this case A503. So imagine this is the bin, this is the box. And in it, these are the individual items within the box. So each item then is, the first one being AA, then AB, AC, AD, and you get it. And it goes on all the way through AX. You could even then begin going, and we've not had to do that. Each box, which I think is 12 by 12 by 17. Yeah. And those hold about 25 items max. So, we're going to stay within the alphabet. If we don't, then you can always then go to kind of an alphanumeric where maybe you go A0 through A9, and then that would give you obviously 10 more items that you could pack in that box. But we've not had to go there yet. So when you do finally get to AZ, and we'll get into that, what happens when we roll over, or if we have a rollover. So let's call this bin at capacity. We can't fit any more in it, and we begin to sell some items. And say we sold these 3 items here. So it looks like ABC, HIJ, LM. So these 3 items are now sold, and they are removed from the bin. At some point, there will be very few items left in this box. We do not take from another box and move to this box. Instead, what we do is we will audit the box, or audit what's left, meaning we will look and check Vendu. Is the item in Vendu? What platforms is it listed on? And then confirm that those listings are physically there, or that they are still listed on the platforms that Vendu tells us they're listed on. In this case, we would also look at, and we call that our auditing cycle, or our auditing phase. In the auditing phase, then, if AA is there, if A503AA, if that item is there, well, why is it there? You know, we're several months down the road, and we've not yet sold that. Why? Okay. Well, we certainly by now, 2 years ago, we should have sold this item. If we didn't, there's a problem with the listing. Let's revisit the listing. Perhaps we need to redo the photos, which is many times the case, as well as redo the title. Item specifics. It had a bad habit of, we wanted to fill out every item specific there was, so we would put NA. No, don't do that. Do not do that. Please don't do that. Not a good idea. Fill out all the specifics that you can that are actually valid. So we've had to revisit a lot of those, and we will, in Vendu, we will delist. So this isn't your end and sell similar. This is delist in Vendu, which deletes them from all platforms that it may have been listed on. And then we will relist, maybe reprice it and then relist on those platforms. Maybe we would then find that it's not appropriate. Maybe it's something that the younger generation or the younger buyer group would not be interested in, so we wouldn't bother with relisting it on, say, Depop. So anyway, the idea is that it gets deleted, refreshed, and then relisted. And we will try that and see if it doesn't sell. So after we've gone through the auditing phase, we then, of course, that makes room for, in this case, 3 more items, right? So we will process 3 more items. So we will, clean them, inspect them. Well, we inspect before we clean. Why waste your time cleaning when it doesn't pass the inspection? And then photograph it, and then bag it and tag it, as I call it. This would be tagging it, and then creating the draft in Vendu, and then from there listing it on multiple platforms. At some point, and we've not gone there yet, but at some point we are going to, for instance, A503, we're going to have item ZZ. When we do get item ZZ and we need to refill, at that point I see A503 being relabeled as A500, and then we will know A500 will contain not only A500 series items, but also any A503. On down the line, maybe this changes to A501. Again, we will look for A501 items in the A500 box. And we'll do that through A599. So 599 cycles we will go through this and audit before we have to, rethink our strategy. But I think that's going to be a while, and who knows what our business will look like then. Maybe we will be in a huge warehouse that we then begin, or we go back to this sequential, where it would maybe make more sense then. But I think this method will carry us through for quite some time. So anyway, I pose the question to you: which system do you use? What have you found that has been working for you? What is your, how are you storing these? What is the, what's the words I'm trying to look for? What is the environment that you're storing them in? Are you in a house like us? Do you have a warehouse? Maybe you're in a storage unit. Are you lucky enough to get storage units that are within close proximity of one another, like maybe across the aisle from each other or next door? Or do you have to go from one end of the storage facility to the other end? That's maybe in an environment like that, this system would work for you in there. Anyway, so I'm curious to know what other methods are out there. These are the ones that I know of, and I'm sure there's many others and variations on what I've presented here in this, or in this slide. Folks, I think at this point we'll go ahead and talk about two other series that I offer. On Sundays we go over our numbers. It's called Know Your Numbers. We will look at the gross revenue for the previous week. So if it's Sunday, it goes from Sunday of last week through prior day, which would be Saturday. So it's Sunday through Saturday, and then what our gross profit was, what our gross sales were, what our net was. We'll look at that in comparison to say month to date, year to date. We'll go into, how did this month look compared to last month? Anyway, so just a real comparison where we are and whether we are growing in capacity, in volume, as well as in profit and sales. Another one that we do on Tuesdays is You Sold What? And these are kind of the first the first place, or the winners, the most profitable items, and then the least profitable items. We'll look at item specifics and sell-through rates and try to see why something didn't perform as well. Was there anything maybe that we could have done to make it perform better? So if you like that sort of content, I would encourage you to check those out. Again, that would be on Sundays and Tuesdays, as well as Thursdays, more of a business-related series, which is Are We There Yet? Folks, my name is Rich, and I appreciate the time that you spent with me, and I hope to see you back. Thank you.